We have chapter 10. Chapter 10, like I just said, does predominantly skeletal muscle, but it nibbles a little bit at cardiac and smooth muscle. The first part, we talk about some characteristics of skeletal muscle. Well, they say skeletal muscle, but in truth, it's all muscle. Muscles involved with body movement. Okay. And I mean, that's skeletal muscle, sure. But, cardiac muscle is involved with movement, contracts the heart, which pushes the blood. Smooth muscle contracts to help propel stuff forward through a tube. So movement, whether it's skeletal, cardiac, or smooth. We just get really specific with body movement. Body movement, skeletal muscles. Cardiac contraction, propelling blood, cardiac muscle. Moving fluid forward through a tube or digested material forward through a tube, smooth muscle. Maintenance of posture. Skeletal muscles are intimately important not only to move us around and interact with the environment, but it helps us to maintain our body position. Just sitting there right now, Sarah's head is holding up. She's not flopping around. She hasn't fallen asleep yet. These skeletal muscles are contracted, even though she is not saying contract. How is that? Magic. And we'll talk about some of that magic a little bit, but they help us to maintain our posture, stabilize joints. I mean, my shoulder joint looks nice and good right here. I have muscles contracted right now and relaxing to help maintain the integrity of that joint. Elbow, knee, all of those things that we looked at in the last class period. Protection and support. It helps to hold things in place. I can hold things in place properly. Yes, there's a number of other tissues as well that do that. There is connective tissues involved with that, bony anatomy involved with that, but it is going to help us hold things in place. In no better place do you see that than, in a lot of the abdominal pelvic regions. Elimination, regulating elimination of materials. Sphincters, love saying that word. Sphincters are circular rings of muscle. Some you control, some you don't control. They help us to allow movement from one structure into the next, from the esophagus into the stomach into the small intestines into the large intestines, rectum into the toilet. Easy. And again, some of those we can control, skeletal muscle. Some of those we don't control, smooth muscle. Last, what I've been doing for the past 2 days, shivering to get some heat. Okay? They help maintain body temperature. They engage, heat dissipates, yada, yada, yada. You get a little warmer. There are also characteristics. Those are all functions, obviously. These are characteristics. And when it comes to these, I mean, cardiac muscle is also excitable. Electricity comes down from the brain, says contract. Or electricity comes from the senoatrial node specifically and says contract. Same thing here for skeletal muscle. The stimulus is generally electricity from the nervous system. Also, if you want to be really creepy, if you just stroke a muscle, it responds. Okay, look around. Look at your belly button. Okay, and if you take if you have a reflex hammer lying around, because I'm sure you all do, just take the sharp end of it and kind of stroke near the umbilicus. The umbilicus moves towards the stimulus because the abdominal muscle on that side is contracting, and the belly button moves away. I don't like belly buttons. I don't like belly buttons. I don't like eyeballs. I don't like them. I don't trust them. But they're all excitable. And there's varying degrees of excitability too, not just the creepy, umbilical test. But I can push on a muscle and it can contract. I can overstretch a muscle and some magic happens and we will contract it. Okay. So what I'm saying is they're excitable. They respond to a stimuli. Conductivity. Muscle tissues conduct electricity. If I can't have them conduct electricity, I can't get the nerve impulse to travel from the nervous system onto the muscle belly, travel across the muscle belly, get down into the muscle fibers. Okay. So Conductivity. It's able to transmit an electrical impulse. And obviously, this is stuff that we're going to be expounding upon. Contractility. Okay? They're able, we have components of skeletal muscle, we have components of cardiac, components of smooth. All of these are filled with these components called filaments. These filaments slide past one another, and when something specific happens, they interact. And that is what allows that muscle to contract, okay, to get shorter. I'll jump down to the last one, elasticity. When a muscle contracts, I need it to be elastic. I need it to have elasticity. I need it to lengthen back out again, return to its original shape, original length, I guess I should say. Great to contract, but unless you can relax and return back to the normal resting length, who cares? Okay, because you can't interact with the world. Last one, extensibility. It has an ability to be stretched. Okay. Now, this has some uniqueness to it, right? If you stretch it too far, it will actually cause it to be excited and contract. And that's a protective mechanism to prevent the muscle from being pulled off its attachment, the tendon, or to prevent it from being torn because it's stretched so far. When it comes to smooth muscle, it loves to be stretched. Okay, it stretches, and when it stretches, it'll cause some relaxation to occur on one end and some contraction on the other end, and that's very unique to smooth muscle. Cardiac muscle is pretty much like skeletal muscle. Okay, it has some ability to stretch, obviously, when it expands and fills with blood, and then it contracts, and it expands and fills with blood and contracts. So it obviously has the ability to be stretched. But there's some wonderful, wonderful, unique characteristics involving cardiac muscle in terms of extensibility and the amount of contraction it can exhibit. What am I saying? All of these characteristics, yes, skeletal muscle. But we'll see it again. We'll talk about it again when we look at the heart. We'll talk about it again when we look at the digestive system, because that's where a lot of smooth muscle is. But these are all characteristics of any type of muscle tissue that we have going on.